First off, I'd like to thank you on behalf of all of us for all the years of entertainment that you've brought all of us, from Tron to Spirit Drums and my question is about Babylon 5. During your 4 years, and you're sitting there and you're reading the scripts, was there one line that just caught you from any character that just, you carry it with you to this day? It was like that poignant, that profound, even that funny, that it just, you always had that memory of that line and from that episode.
Mm-hmm. Now get the hell out of my galaxy. Today will be my universe. So, now, you know, there's so many great lines in Babylon 5. JMS was such a wonderful writer. Still the best material I ever got to work with. I still say that. Tron, all of them. You know, it was an absolute honor to do that show. And that one too, I walked in, there was something going on there with Warner Brothers, and they wanted to replace Michael. And that, you know, that was controversial with the fan base. And I had worked with Doug Netter, an executive producer on The Western, years earlier with Sam Elliott. And so, you know, it went through a few people, but it just, at that time, I was in sort of a trough in my career, and that happens for every actor. You go up, you go down. And I saw this and answered a lot of things for me. And that show, I loved every minute of it. I really did. I wanted to, like I said, if they didn't want to end this thing, went on for 10 years, if it could, I would have stayed till the last. And frankly, I was very angry when I left. I was very angry. I made it very, very plain to them. I said, you know, you're going to do a spin-off on TNT, and none of us are going to be in it. And they wanted a whole new cast. I think it was a big mistake. I will to this day, and I don't care what anybody says. Crusade was a huge error, and it bombed in 13 episodes. We could have kept going. I know we're a 5-year saga. We've got all of that. Yes, yes. But you know what? JMS, you could have sat at home and collected the checks. You know what I mean? We could have gone somewhere else with it. But there, you know, the only thing I regret about Babylon 5 is it kind of ended on a sour note for everybody, for the regulars who have been taking so much of their lives in that thing. Because everyone genuinely loved it. And speaking of that, I want to. Yesterday we lost one of our cast members. Jeff Conaway died yesterday. I didn't know if you knew, he'd been in a coma for the last couple of weeks. Jeff was a great guy. He was a professional. He had played Zach. He created a wonderful character. He had struggled with pain medications, alcohol, and drugs. And he had a tough time with it, but we never saw it on the set. Never saw anything like that. It actually was such a shock when I, years later, saw him on Celebrity Rehab, Dr. Pinsky's show. And it was like a train wreck. He couldn't turn away. I said, is this the guy I knew? I worked for 3 years with him. I think he was on 3 years, and or 2. And never saw this, and it was just so tragic to watch. And he was just spiraling down and down and down, and then he walked off that show, or rolled out of that show. By that time, he was in a wheelchair. And he and I are the same age. We're the same age, so I kept going, this is just horrible. And various people tried to reach out to him, and there was no response. So anyway, he passed away yesterday. They pulled the plug on him the night before. And he was a good guy. That's all I can say. He was a good guy. I'm so sorry. By the way, that's the 4th member of that cast that's gone now. We've had Richard Biggs, Andreas Katsoulis, Tim Choate, who played Zathras, that wonderful character, the 2-parter we had. He was killed in a car accident. And now Jeff. So just want you to know I'm not planning on going anywhere. damn meat you got. Now. And I will go kicking and screaming, don't you worry. Anyway, but enough about that. This is a great Saturday morning.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Yep.
Hi, what was your favorite episode of Babylon 5?
Wow, I've never heard that question before. You know, my favorite part of the saga, because I can't really narrow it down to one favorite. I think for me as an actor, one of the challenging one was Intersections in Real Time. That whole sequence where I was being held prisoner by the Inquisitor, or whatever it was called. The Inquisition that Sheridan was going through. Because it was just two of us, you know, in this bare floor room. And that was challenging material. But I think the Shadow War stories, scripts leading up to the end of that, I think that was really the highlight of the entire saga. I think that was the third season, I believe. When I jumped into the hole, that was it. Like, you know, I had the solution for the ex-wife, didn't I? Drop an atom bomb on her. And then jump into the hole. And how prophetic that has become. Life has its turns. Anyway, I think that was the sequence. Am I still on? Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, I think those were my favorite. Because Sheridan really rose to the challenge on that, you know. And actually, I would have preferred a different ending in those stories. I was John Newcomb Sheridan, remember? But you know, Joe always had one surprise after another. I never tried to look at any of the scripts too far ahead because I wanted to treat it as the way Sheridan would treat it. And that it was coming at him, it was fresh, you know. And I was never let down. He's such a good writer. Does that answer anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
May I address you as isolated thinker? It'll be
Whatever,
easy.
yes.
Tron Legacy had a huge alternative reality game, Flynn Lives. What was your favorite part of participating in that whole reality game?
The night in the Embarcadero in San Francisco, on this huge neon-lit stage, the wind is blowing, it's sleeting, and they've got all these extras and fans out there that they had rounded up. And we were up in the hotel just above the Embarcadero there. We had never rehearsed it. There was no way to rehearse it. It was out in the public. We couldn't because, you know, iPhones would be out and everything. So it would have been blown because it was supposed to go live when we did it online and everything. And it was like flying by the seat of our pants. I hadn't done it before, and I had these two presidential monitor, what do you call them? Teleprompters, yes, thank you. I need another coffee. They were there, and, you know, we had a script. And I went out there as Alan Bradley, and the wind is blowing, and it's just, I'm lit up forever all over San Francisco. It's that WonderCon there. And the helicopter's supposed to take off. Sam's double is supposed to dive out of the helicopter and land into the midst of the whole thing. None of it worked right. None of it went up, but somehow it did come off, you know. I think I did it properly, but I was watching the, I'm going through my speech, and the fans are cheering and booing and yaying and all sorts of things, and then it says, and then Alan hears a helicopter. I don't hear a helicopter. Oh boy, here we go. So I start vamping away, and I'm improvising. I'm actually having a great time up there, and I'm not hearing the helicopter. And they come out. It's not coming. It got grounded in Oakland. And then, when she comes on stage to tell me that, she turns around and walks off, and then suddenly I hear a helicopter, and the guy is flying. Now what do we do? So, I mean, it was, and then the guy was supposed to jump because it was too windy. He jumps anyway and takes out all these police barriers. And now that I'm revealing all this, and then Garrett had done all his part of the thing over in Oakland there, where they were taking off. So it all worked out, strangely enough, but it was hair-raising because we had no idea. Upstairs or back of that stage, I had the head of Disney, I had Joe, the director, I had Ed, and I had Kitsis and Adam Horowitz, the writers of the movie as well, and all these other studio heads, all watching this, because this was a lot of money. They went into millions to stage this event, and I'm out there, it's seeming like just winging away because it's not going right. Nothing is working. And so it was kind of exciting, And it was huge. It went viral. Boom. So anyway.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for
Keep up
re-releasing
with
Space
the
Paranoids
we
online.
need you next year.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Boxleitner. I appreciate you, the highlight of my con. Just one thing. I've noticed that every couple of years since the end of Babylon 5, that Straczynski has reprised the series in Call to Arms and then Lost Tales a couple of years later, which was very good, by the way. I was wondering, anything in the future for Babylon 5 possibly that you might have either heard about or have been hinted at from Straczynski about the continuation of the series or any further movies maybe in the future?
No, I have not. I have not, and I'm being very honest with you.
That's unfortunate.
I mean, yeah, it is. But like I'm not going to make it say either way because like I said, Tron, why would they make a sequel to Tron? What I said about Crusade, that's TNT's doing. That was their, because remember they came like the cavalry in the last reel and saved us because like the series Chuck, we were forever going off the air. We never knew, and Chuck is still there, right? I mean, it is. Anyway, every season when we ended, we never knew if we were coming back. And we were always told it's over. So how are we going to do this 5-year saga if we, after the 4th season, we did the last episode where I ride off over the rim there. And then they saved that episode when they picked us up later that summer. TNT came to our rescue. But I think, we had the 2-hour movies that came with TNT's sale. And then they were going to do Crusade. And we all thought we were going to go on in some other form. That's why I was a little bitter about it, because they talked to me up until almost the time we went off, we finished the season, that hinting that I was going to have a bit to do with that. And I didn't. We had Gary Cole in there, and he tanked it. It felt good to say that. It's a cutthroat business, folks. I know where a lot of bodies are buried, and I put a lot of them there. So, it's competitive, Right, Gary? You've never sold a series. Anyway. Hey, speaking the truth. Okay. Puts a show on and he goes off the air. I've got 5 seasons. Anyway. So, I don't have anything. If there is, we'd have to look at it. Because, I don't want to make the rest of my life repeating things I did in my 40s and 30s. I don't get around like that. But that's all. I mean, to say in some form, maybe, he's a tricky guy. Maybe he'll come up with something. But who knows, Here's my big beef is that we're not in outer space in science fiction on television anymore. And I regret that. With Washington slowly shutting down our space program, the last spacewalk was yesterday, by the way. We'll never see that again. I'm really disheartened about the future of our space program, and which also is reflected in Hollywood. All the aliens are on Earth now, and it's all about time, zombies and vampires. How boring. Wait till we get to the end of this. Anyway, it has some really decent, really intelligent science fiction anymore. It's just not being done. Maybe JMS will come to the rescue of that, because I think he's one of the best science fiction writers ever. We need to go back to outer space. We need to stop. If you remember, I had a speech, I forget what season it was, but it was about we're looking at our feet, not at the horizon. And that's what we've gone back to in real life, I think. There's a lot of folks at NASA that are leaving. They're bitter, angry, their dreams have been broken. I know several of them. Quitting the astronaut office. They didn't get their ride. And they trained hard for it. And the other scientists who were such big fans of Babylon 5. We had a huge fan base there at NASA. I mean, we were invited to come and speak and talk. Where they, their space history was created. And I'm just sorry for that, because I know we're having troubles here on Earth, but you know what? We need to continually look forward. And out there is where the future of mankind is going to be. Someday we may have to leave this old rock. And we're not going to get there, because we should be doing it now. We should be starting that journey now, so that we can. But typical with Washington. I won't get into politics this morning. I will be starting my campaign. 2012. Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you once again. It's unfortunate that it ended, but I know that all of us hope that it restarts again. Thank you.
You never know.
Absolutely.